Hello, everybody. uh, Jesus. So yeah, we watched movies like we do. We
Yep,
watched a lot of movies like we do.
tons of movies.
So can I send you a
Wow,
screenshot?
not as many as last time, but last time was like a month-long episode,
I'm gonna
basically.
send you a screenshot here, and you tell me where you want to start. Okay?
Okay.
And they're grayed out because it means I've already watched them. I'll let you start. I gotta pack a bong still. I've been running around with my head cut off like the last hour.
I have no recollection of the first one on that list.
The one with the lady with the very uncomfortable nudity and the vampires.
I have no recollection of that.
You don't remember Valerie and her Weekend Wonders? We were talking about how it's like every single shot was like so fucking weird and probably loaded with like subtext and yeah. You at least remember that?
No,
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I guess we
no
gotta
recollection.
All right. Well, move on to the next whatever one you want to talk about next.
Uh, what should we talk about first? Yeah.
I don't know. We could start out with Nightmare Alley. And the title is Nightmare Alley, Devil's Advocate, and Rushmore. So there's the three we have to cover.
Ah,
I thought Devil's Advocate was
um,
popular enough to throw it on there, you know?
I kind of want to start with Torque
Okay, let's start with Torque.
because Torque was surprisingly not bad.
It was a lot
It
better than
was
Biker Boys.
Yeah, we watched Biker Boys,
That was like
and it
2 weeks
was like,
ago.
oh no, Lawrence Fishburne, what have you done?
I know, right?
And it was it was very disappointing in terms of like just giving Kid Rock way too many scenes. We've gone over all of this before,
he is such a
but
he's such a large portion of that movie, and also he's in
yeah,
this movie on the soundtrack.
on the soundtrack,
He's on
yes.
both motorcycle. He's in both motorcycle movies.
But
It sounds great.
Torque, like it starts out and it's just immediately over the top and in a very fun way, right?
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And I immediately gathered just from the first few moments of the movie, I'm like, this movie was directed or shot by somebody who has done almost exclusively music videos. And sure enough, that turned out to be the
He's still
case.
doing music videos, including 50 Cent, Mariah Carey, and a bunch
And
of other
that's
stuff.
nothing. That's not a bad thing for a
No,
movie like this, to be
because
honest.
and
It works
also,
very well.
and I have no disdain towards music video directors because Spike Jonze and Michelle Gondry
Yes.
and fucking Tony Scott and Michael Bay, all those people came from one
I
of
don't
those people.
mind McG either.
He's
I mean, a lot
okay.
of people shit on McG, but
I
he's
shit
a
on him all the time
decent.
because
He's decent. He's okay.
he's okay. He's okay.
But I just think it is pretty stupid to literally just have your name be McG. But okay, whatever.
Well, Spike
Whatever.
Jonze's last name isn't spelled like that either. I don't think. I think that's made up also.
True.
But
True.
like
But
all the
my
directors,
main issue is that it's like a
and
three-letter name.
yeah, and
Like
while I
that's
don't
it.
necessarily like Michael Bay, I have to say that he's a lot better director than the guy who did Torque. So I'm definitely not
Oh
crapping on
yeah.
anybody who who
Yeah.
directs music videos directing a movie because they can be just as good as anybody else, and you gotta work to pay your bills somehow, right? So
They immediately when you enter this movie, it's like the
like boom.
what is it called? The saturation. The
Hmm.
saturation of the colors is just out there, really, really highly saturated. It almost felt like we were watching Speed Racer again in some ways,
A little bit.
especially given like the fact that a lot of it was not really shot on location. It was, you know, they had the,
There was a lot of blue screen in the background.
yeah, blue screen and whatnot. Yeah.
Green screen, whatever it was, whatever screen
Um,
background. It was matte shot. That was the word. A lot of matte
but the
shots.
way I put it, uh, the way we put it after watching this movie was that it was, what did we say? Shit, what was, I had it in my head, but I lost it. Shit. Oh yeah, it was the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter of of
Racing movies.
I wouldn't even say racing movies. I would say specifically of motorcycle racing movies, of which clearly there are not many, but
Well,
like,
this one's supposed to be a parody, and it feels like a parody in a lot of
yeah,
ways. The studio took a lot of the editing away from him, the director, and so they made it really much more serious than it should have been.
yeah. Uh, I just love how ridiculous some of the scenes in this movie are. The plot, it doesn't need to make sense, all right? It's just a bunch of stupid fun. You just, and
Mm,
you just like,
And we were
why are they dueling on motorcycles right now? What is happening?
and we were talking about how it could easily. It's definitely just in the need for in the Fast and the Furious universe. It's just
Yeah,
there. It's just to the left. It's on the periphery of what's happening.
it's absolutely inspired by Fast and the Furious, and it's absolutely like, I think, doing a pretty good job of, you know, copying what made Fast and the Furious successful. And I had a lot of fun with it, honestly. Like, it's really stupid, but it's also really fun. And I couldn't help but think after watching it, like, actually, I kind of want to own this. I can
Right?
see
It's
myself watching this again.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, for me, it's part of the Fast and Furious universe. It's just I don't care what anyone else says. There was another movie I mentioned that also is, but I can't remember.
Yeah. So Torque gets a thumbs up. Uh, Biker Boys gets a thumbs down.
Well, the Michael Boys was thumbs down super hard. Two thumbs down from me alone.
Yeah.
Like it was so unenjoyable. I gave Biker Boy or Torque 7 out of 10, and I gave Biker Boys 4 out of 10.
Yeah. Biker
Deservedly
Boys,
so.
there are several problems with Biker Boys, but I think one of the things I didn't mention last time was just the name. The name of the movie Boys is literally the name of one of the biker gangs that comes up. Hey, have you ever heard of a real, actual fucking biker gang that was called the Biker Boys with a Z?
I
I'm
feel like
pretty
it's.
sure
I feel like
they
it's.
would get their ass kicked quite literally all the time
Nah,
if
man. I
there
believe you get
was
your ass kicked for
actually,
that.
yeah, if there's actually a biker gang with that name. Like, give me a break. Come on.
Oh, Gone in
It's
60
so
Seconds.
bad.
Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage film. That's what I say. It's definitely in the same universe. Well, we were talking about how all the
Yes.
ridiculous stunts. Let's just bleed right into that.
Yeah, that's a
This
good
movie
idea.
I thought was only mediocre in the past, and after watching this time, this thing's a solid 7 out of 10. Like it's
Oh
like
yeah.
so much fun. Oh
Oh
god.
yeah, and what we were talking about was saying not only does this fit pretty well into the Fast and the Furious universe, but they should do a fucking crossover. There's a way to bring back the fucking characters from this movie, like 20 years
I need the
later in the
Justice
Fast
League.
and the Furious
I need the
universe.
Justice League of Racing movies. Get the guys from Torque. Sure, get a guy from Biker Boys just for the fuck of it, and get down 60 seconds. Put them all in there, and let's have an Avenger style fucking crossover and mashup because that would be fucking awesome.
Yes, I agree.
Also, we decided that Angelina Jolie's character in Gone 60 Seconds is the grown up version of her character from Hackers. So Hackers is also in the Fast and Furious universe. In case
Yes,
you're curious. So
yes.
they should also bring back
Hack the
Serial Killer for
planet.
that. Serial Killer should come back for that with a badass car with a computer built into it or some shit. That'd be really cool. Yeah, we're fan
Oh
canning this
god.
shit, and I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, I remember having a lot of fun with Gone in 60 Seconds when I was younger. I had the DVD.
I've seen it a few
I'd
times.
watch it like usually like at least 2 or 3 times a year, honestly. And I never thought it was like a really great movie. I just liked it.
Hmm.
And I still feel the same way. It's not like it's a fucking brilliant film, but it's fun. It's good. There's nothing too terribly wrong with it. It's fairly simplistic, but that's okay. And I like the way they set up the plot. It just
The
makes it
bad
all
guy.
work.
I love how like you had this huge problem with the bad guy being a woodworker for some reason. He mentions building a fucking coffin for
I didn't have a
range.
problem with it. I
When
didn't
you're like,
gather
I
that.
know you're like, why is he dealing with wood? I'm like, well,
Yeah.
first of all, you're replacing Z's
Yes,
hip.
apparently they mentioned this
Lord,
once for like two
they
seconds
did.
earlier in the movie.
Yeah,
And you're supposed to just remember that throughout the whole
it's a very
movie.
important part. That's the threat of if you don't steal my 80, 100 cars or whatever, it's you're
Yeah.
going into the box. You
It's
know.
just unexpectedly important. Nobody would expect that to be an important detail.
They keep bringing it up, and he keeps talking about wood and how beautiful and pure it is.
Yeah.
He's got a hard on for wood. Okay, he's got a wood for wood.
Apparently.
Like, fuck's sakes.
Oh,
So yeah, Gone in 60 Seconds, also part of the Fast and Furious universe. You're welcome. Let's see here. Next, what do you want to talk about?
that's all we got here. We, we we are starting off with the cheesy stuff. So let's talk about the last movie we watched, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Wow, I did not expect this to be so bad. Actually, I was expecting this to be a
Really?
solid 7 or 8 out of 10. Like really fun, just because it got a sequel. So it had to do, I thought they just got some redeeming quality, right? But no, it ended up being
Yeah.
only a 6 out of 10, which is better than
I
I probably should have expected. But like, I like Brendan Fraser, but like I thought this was a bad role. I didn't think this role was built right for him. I think The Rock
yeah.
is a perfect role for the sequel, which we're gonna probably watch this weekend.
I never liked Brendan Fraser in action movies, to be quite frank. I was not a big fan of the Mummy movies. I
You
did
need to
watch
rewatch
them. I
them.
did think they were okay,
We need to
but I
rewatch
didn't
the first two.
understand. I didn't understand why people were gung ho about it. Like they loved the Mummy movies. Everybody
I
talks about
love
how
them.
great the Mummy movies are,
They're
and
great.
I'm just like, they're okay.
You need
There's
to rewatch
nothing
them. You need to
great
rewatch them.
about
We need to rewatch them for
the.
this show.
I
Okay.
Yeah, for sure,
And Van
I will.
Helsing.
But at the same time, I did rewatch The Mummy, the first one. I want to say probably like 5 years ago now, but more recent than like 15 years, And um I still felt like it was cheesy, and there were certain not in a good way either. And there were certain things about it that just rubbed me the wrong way. I
They're
think
not
it was
really
like,
action films. Technically, they're adventure films. They're harkening back to the action adventure romance films from like
yeah.
the 50s.
And I think that's probably a little bit of what rubbed me the wrong way, because it's like it's the Mummy. It's supposed to be based on the
It
horror
is,
movie, The
and
Mummy,
it still is. And I
And there
like
are
the
horrific
extensions.
elements of it, but it's like
They extended
I don't like
like
what they did with
the
that.
added powers to the Mummy that stuck around for even the Tom Cruise Mummy, which we should probably watch also to cover all their bases. We don't need to watch the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. That's an entirely skippable movie. Talk about literally a waste of time. It wasn't
I
bad, but
remember
just there was nothing memorable about it except
I
Jet Li's
remember
in it.
after I watched the new or
Monkey
I'm
Bone,
sorry,
hell yeah.
after I watched the Mummy, Brendan Fraser Mummy most recently,
Yeah.
I watched the special features on it, and I think that especially is what rubbed me the wrong way, because the director was talking about
Steven Summers.
all these changes he made to the lore.
Yeah,
And
in
he's
a
just
good
like,
way,
yeah,
I
I just
think.
felt like this would be better, so I did it. I'm like, but that's stupid. I
But it's
didn't
not.
like
It's
that.
cool additions to the lore.
You can like it all you want to. I didn't
You're a
think it was
fucking
cool at the
heathen.
time, but I'm still willing to rewatch it. I'm gonna rewatch
Yeah.
all of them for
And
sure.
Van Helsing and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We're just gonna go on a train of those mid 2000s, early 2000s, and mid 2000s like action adventure films. There's a lot of them.
Fair.
And I remember hating League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Uh, having been a fan of the comic, like I read the first volume. I know there's like 5 more like miniseries or whatever volumes. But like I remember reading that first one and thinking that like certain things were right. Hyde was mostly right, but like Alan Quartermain, oh, he was so like no. Sean Connery's so badly cast in that. He's a great actor that's just really badly cast in that movie. Artistic
Yeah, I
effort.
need to
That's the
reshoot
point.
that again. I haven't seen them in a while.
I want to do it this way. It's all we have. That's right. Ambient Soup understands. They understand like a director can just say, "I want to do it this way because it's cool." It's totally acceptable.
But the problem is if only the director thinks it's cool, it won't work. Clearly, that's not the case here. It's just that I didn't agree with the director on that being cool. That's
Fight
all.
me. That's it. We're fighting. See you in the boxing ring. Like eventually, we're gonna just
But
do
like,
something dumb like that.
clearly,
But
I'm in
video
the
game.
minority, so it's okay.
Yeah, you are definitely in the minority on the first two Mummy films. The
But
third
anyways,
film,
we we got off on a tangent about the Mummy.
which aren't
The
even
journey
what
journey
we
to the center of the
watched.
earth.
Yes, Journey to Center of the Earth was really silly, and I do have to say the pacing is just breakneck. Ba, 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 ba,
Yeah,
ba. This happened, this
almost a
happened,
little
this happened.
too fast.
A
Yeah.
little, yes, I agree. I feel like it was a 2.5 hour movie that truncated down to 97 minutes or whatever. That's what it felt like. Whether that's
I
a fact or not, I don't know.
I intended to watch this when it first came
93.
out and just never got around to it because, well, quite frankly, the Mummy movies left a bad taste in my mouth for Brendan Fraser action films, and I just didn't feel like watching another one at the time. I had it at like the bottom of my Netflix queue
Yep.
back when Netflix was like, DVD rental thing. Um, and it just never left the bottom of my queue and never actually got sent. So I never actually watched it until now. And I'll say it's not as bad as I was worried it would be, but it's still I would maybe like a 5 out of 10. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It makes me want to watch the second one to see if they improved on the formula at all.
So, you know that moment when he lights flare and burns himself in the movie? Do you remember that at all? Brendan Fraser apparently actually burned himself. It's not acting. The flare, the sparks bounced off the wall and hit his hand. It was all behind
Oh,
him. So,
ow.
ow! And then he acted through the scene because he's a fucking professional. But
And to be clear, I'm not saying Brendan
ambient.
Fraser.
Oh my god, ambient. Ambient's like stab in. You're valid, and I respect how wrong you are about this thing.
To be clear, I'm not saying Brendan Fraser is a bad actor because that's
No,
not
he's
true at
not.
all.
No, he's
a great
great.
director. He's a great actor. I think he's the kind of actor who is better served in certain roles than in others. But it's like
Look, he's really good
he
as
can do
Dudley Do
whatever the
Right.
fuck he
Okay,
wants to. It's
he's
like,
really good as Dudley Do Right. You have to
and
agree.
I do think it's unfair that for like 10 years now, Hollywood has just fucking ignored him. It's
I
like,
am
come on.
so glad Sean Connery turned down Lord of the Rings to do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He would have been terrible as Gandalf.
Oh my God. Oh, hell no.
No, right? Right? I cannot see any other person. Like, they're going to recast him in the new Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, right? But I can't imagine it being anybody else. It's going to be weird at first to try to get used to that.
Yeah. Like, how? I don't know. Well,
I mean,
I guess once you've seen the movies enough and you understand that Gandalf as a character can change, it's like, yeah, you know enough about the stories and stuff. It's like,
yep,
yeah,
yep. Yeah, so back to Journey to the Center of the Earth. We keep getting distracted. I gave this. Oh my god, I don't think I gave this a very good rating at all. Oh, I gave it a 6 out of 10. All right, that's not too bad. That's pretty forgiving.
yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to
It's
the sequel.
entirely watchable.
I love The Rock.
And I
So.
I would say watch this first, and maybe you'll enjoy the second one better. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Like everybody I've heard says that's seen this movie, they say that it's better than the first one, and it's actually worth watching. So, well,
Got
okay,
The Rock in it. It can't be bad. It
it
can't be
is.
bad.
Yeah, it's got The Rock. The
It,
Rock
it won't be worse
is
than the first
perfect
one.
for that kind of role.
I can guarantee it won't be worse than the first one. So. All right.
And I like the Jumanji movies, the newer ones. So
Speaking of being worse than the first one, the
these
Mothman
guys are like-
Prophecies.
I didn't hate that movie at all. I still have a soft spot in my heart for the Mothman
I mean, it's
Prophecies.
a 6 out of 10.
It's definitely
That's a little
not
bit.
as I wouldn't say it's as good as I remember it being. I don't know why. It's because it's like it doesn't seem like anything really has changed about it. Maybe I'm the one who's changed. But it is definitely a slower movie.
I think it's because we've seen the same type of story told better. Not that it is
Might be it, yeah.
like it's like this is like one of the earlier films that did this kind of story, right? And then other
Mhm.
film built upon it and they did better because they had bigger budgets or different writers, whatever the case may be. So you're like I'm the same way. I feel like this is a good movie, but like it's a bit slow. I really feel like they could have chopped some Chopped us down a bit.
Yeah,
Didn't have to be 2 fucking hours.
and it has that feel of like what's the X Files. Thank you, Brain. It has that X Files feel from the '90s, the late '90s, and well, even the early '90s, but really more the late '90s X Files feel to it. And it also somewhat has the
It does.
feel of certain uh, moments from Unsolved Mysteries at that time period too. There was just this uh, element of like '90s horror, and in particular like '90s creepy, spooky kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that was
We've been watching a
it's
lot
a
of them.
whole ass fucking mood. All
We
right, you
we've been
got the
watching a bunch of movies
really
from this era that are like this end of the world type horror, like Y2K infused films.
well, I was talking more about like it's dark, and then there's the really harsh blue lighting and the mist and fog popping up and all that
I did
stuff,
uncontrollably laugh at the Mothman CGI though, because
and the shadows everywhere, and it's like this. It's almost like a neo noir kind of effect, but it was a predominant thing in '90s, just kind of spooky, creepy horror, not the over the top kind of horror that we are now more familiar with, and
I want to revisit
that was more
Dragonfly
prevalent
now.
in the '80s. Me too. But Dragonfly, that's funny because Dragonfly is Kevin Costner, and this is not Kevin Costner.
There's
It's
this.
just you think of it as being the same person because it's a very similar character, and it's just an old white guy.
I also
You
need
know,
to see White Noise and Parasomnia and a couple other movies that are from the era. There's this
old
particular.
white man finds himself in a supernatural scenario. The movie. There was a
There,
lot of those at the time.
there's this particular kind of VHS quality brown and blue foggy X Files and Unsolved Mysteries vibe that goes unmatched in that era. Thank you, Ambient Soup.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad
I mean,
somebody understood what I was trying to
Stigmata, End
describe.
of Days are way up on this. We need to
Yeah.
watch was it called Lost Girl? No, not Lost Girl. It was called something the child or something. And then there's another one called God, I remember. There's like these two other religious end of world type horror films that came out in the early 2000s, late 90s. Because like there was this whole cycle of movies like post 9/11, post Y2K, pre 9/11. 9/11 changed everything. I think we would be a completely different place, pop culture wise, without 9/11. Because like there's this whole vibe going through, like building up, and then 9/11 just like took the legs
Mhm.
out, and horror changed to like
Yeah.
this extreme horror. So
9/11
just
had a huge impact on art and media in general.
just like the Vietnam War had a big impact on
Yeah.
70s horror. Um, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Eaten Alive and Last House on the Left, right? A documentary about that called American Nightmare. You should check it out. The
I mean,
same
I would
thing.
say, yeah.
Y2K was our thing that we were being traumatized at the time. So a lot of movies had this end of the world vibe to them.
Yes.
9/11 happened and it totally changed. We had monsters. We had extreme violence. Extremity came back into favor, like back in the 70s. That was like a thing.
Hmm.
Extremity, like you saw like a lot of the rape revenge film like came back with a vengeance, and there's all these like extra ludicrously gory films, some of which are really good. Like Hostel 2 is really good as an example. Um,
Sorry, I'm curious about something.
I need to see Stirbeco still, actually, Ambient Soup. It's on my list. Who this person?
Yes, I love Stirbeckos, actually. It's very good.
Never seen it.
Um,
Literally, actually, never seen it.
but yeah, I would say like the that was the later effect of the Vietnam War on film back in the '70s. Because I really feel like without the Vietnam War and how it was affecting culture well before that in the '60s, we wouldn't have like Hollywood never would have moved on from the musicals and whatnot that were so popular in the late '50s and early '60s. Were it not for audiences just rejecting them and not going to see those movies and not really being interested in those movies anymore.
Shit.
And so Hollywood didn't know what the fuck was going to work. So they started giving money to unproven
Oh
directors, and
shit,
that
he's on his
created the
fucking.
new Hollywood.
He's on New Hollywood again. This is Obsession, by the
I'm
way.
just saying that
So
this happened
Yeah, I
like
know.
in 1967, 1968 is like, I wouldn't even say the earliest of
Justin has a special
elements of it,
interest in this era of filmmaking, to be particular.
but like you wouldn't have that without the without the Vietnam War, and I feel like that happens, and then you get things like The Godfather, for instance, and then after that, just right after that comes the blockbuster era with things like Jaws, and so there's a lot more violence. It's a lot less
there's
concern about violence on
there's
screen, and
overlap in all these things, by the way. It's not like a brief cutoff
yeah,
usually. The
yeah,
Y2K thing got a brief cut off because of how traumatizing 9/11 was. It's the exception. Meanwhile, uh, the 1970s roll and get like Vietnam on TV, like we've seen dead bodies and shit, but like it wasn't the same violence, same kind. It's not the same kind of. It was a different kind of violence. So that's why we see a different kind of extremity then versus now.
yes,
It's just
yeah,
interesting.
and
Uh,
then
Oh yeah, Saw would be the also in the post 9/11 revival. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the
yeah.
obvious like the big ones that the whole fucking franchise, what 9 movies or whatever.
Mhm. That tends to happen with horror movies, so they get
Yeah, Final
huge
Destination.
franchises that do
Final
well.
Destination's a perfect example also. You know, like the first one had these crazy deaths and stuff. I think the first one came out in like '99, didn't it? 2000,
99 or 98, one of those two.
and then the second one came out in like 2001, I think. So and the second movie is 10 times more violent and gory and fucking traumatizing as a movie.
Over
You
the
know,
top. I
like
didn't like it because of that.
really? Oh man, the log
Well,
scene. Oh shit was
it's not to
brutal.
say that I didn't like it. It's just that it's compared to the first one. I loved the first one, and I felt like the second one was too over the top. It
That
was
was the
taking the series in a direction I wasn't necessarily hoping it would go. I'm okay with it now, obviously,
To
but
be
like,
fair, it changed the way a lot of people drive. It changed the way how I reacted when my wife at the time would drive
yeah,
behind trucks. Like, no, no, that's some fucking loose ass shit in the back of that truck. Let's not follow behind that truck. Like literally all the time. It would just be like that's some rebar. Like, nah, we gotta change lanes. This is not okay. But no,
and now, to be fair to the whole Final Destination thing, I'll
that's a
say
great series. To be fair,
uh, the second one is better than the third one. The third one is absolute dog shit, and I don't ever
haven't
want to
seen it in a
watch it
long
again.
ass time. Final Destination 1 was from
Ugh.
2000.
The fourth one was
Number 2 was
good
from
again,
2003. So yeah.
and then the fifth one was even better than the fourth one, I think. So yeah, I said it.
Like the third one.
The
Look, I
the
feel
Final
like
Destination has like a smiley face in terms of
I
rating.
I
I'll
feel
put it
like
that way.
I feel like the way the Final Destination works is you get like here's this level of violence, here's this level of violence. 3 brings it back down again. 4 brings it back up again. 5 raises the stakes. So, but 3 or 2 literally did come out in 2003. So it came out 3 years after the first, and it was after post 9/11 during the
Yeah,
extreme violence era, like that extreme extremity. That you know. Like
yeah,
the violence is just a framework for the puzzle, a violent wrapper for all the grander conspiracy morality play. Oh, Saw, yes, yes. And
yeah. Saw is a great example of that, but that kind of movie actually.
exactly. I mean, Saw, like the very first Saw is incredible. The sequels, they go downhill. Your mileage may vary. I can't watch the needle pit scene ever again. I see it coming. And I literally have to just turn away, and someone just tell me when it's over because I just.
Oh yeah, it's just brutality for the sake of brutality
The second
for
movie
those
is
movies.
literally some. The second movie is actually torture porn. The
Yeah,
definition of torture porn in this case is there's no context or subtext to the reason why the movie exists, right? The first movie's talking about morality and like this extremist view of morality and how our society views black things as black and white when they're oftentimes in the gray. Okay, it's literally the subtext of Saw. Saw 2 is just like, haha, violence. Look at these neat traps, and that's fine, but that's just the difference between the two movies, you know.
mhm. Disturbing as fuck.
Oh Jesus, ambient. That's terrifying. No, no, no. All right. Anyway, hold on. We just talked about. Did I add this? This is why I had the list open too. Now I need to add Journey. We get sidetracked by 5 other movies. Oh, Mothman
We're talking
Prophecies.
about Mothman. Yeah.
Did you want to add anything else? Mothman Prophecies.
Not really. I think
Okay.
we can move on to Devil's Advocate, actually,
Yeah,
because
I hated this movie.
that's a good. It's another example of the movie like about the devil and the end of the world that was coming out at that time in the late
1, 3,
'90s.
4, and 6. Yeah, that's pretty good ones.
Um,
I don't think we've seen Spiral yet.
I like the Devil's Advocate when it like first when I first saw it,
I never liked it.
back in the day.
I didn't like it back then. Don't like it now.
But watching it now, I can see that really the best part of this movie and the only real reason to watch it is Al Pacino. And if anybody, I'm sure other actors could have done the role pretty well, but no other actor could have portrayed the devil quite the way that Al Pacino does. Spoilers.
And it's interesting because he's like, if you ever watch Scent of a Woman, he's supposed to be like this main character, and like, but he's fucking creepy in that movie. And I feel like Devil's Advocate is like Scent of a Woman, Pacino, but cranked up to 1100,000 because he's just way over the top. But Keanu is this is one of the worst movies Keanu's ever done, and that's including Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is the worst job he's ever done in a film. I don't
I
like
will
that
say,
movie, but I understand why people like it. Keanu Reeves is just not very good in that movie
I
at
will
all.
say, in my opinion, Keanu is just okay. There are many scenes in this movie in which I feel like a better, I don't want to say a better actor, just a different actor could have done a better
Yeah,
job
because I don't think he's a
than
bad
Keanu
actor
Reeves.
at all. I just think that he's
It
not right
was
for this
still
role.
somewhat early in his career for roles like
He was
this.
more action hero at this point, you know.
I don't know about
He did
that.
well. He did a bunch of action movies prior to this. That's why I'm saying this.
Did he?
He did Speed. He did, what's it
Oh, you're
called?
right. You're right.
Fucking Point
Johnny
Break.
Mnemonic. And,
But he
yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
do My Private Idaho before all that too. So and Johnny Mnemonic. Thank you. Forget about that one. But so he did have these acting chops. And by the way, if you have never seen My Private Idaho, everyone, you owe it to yourself, especially if you're a queer person to watch that movie. It's a bit uncomfortable, but it's like such a good movie as like a written movie, acted movie. Probably the best thing Gus Van Sant ever did. It's not saying
Um,
it's bad. Other movies are bad. Just that's
so
the best one.
Keanu Reeves, though, in this role, I think, is kind of wasted. Like it just, it could be.
This should be
Uh,
Brendan Fraser.
I think Brendan Fraser would have done a much better
I
job.
no, I wasn't joking. I was
Yeah,
being fucking
yeah.
serious. That wasn't
No,
some
I know.
joke answer. I was like, it should have been
I
Brendan
was like,
Fraser.
that's a great example of a role that I think Brendan Fraser would have done a
Keanu
great
Reeves
job
should have
in.
been in The Mummy, and Brendan Fraser should have been in Scent of a Woman. I mean,
Yes,
Devil's Advocate.
yes.
You know.
Where is this universe? How do I visit it? I mean, I don't know that I'd want to visit it just to see those movies that way, but that'd be interesting at least. Um, Other than that, like it's a very long movie. It's very drawn out. The pacing is terrible in The Devil's Advocate. The story is pretty good. Um, there are some moments that might be traumatic to some people, or you know, have
Uh,
them reliving trauma.
you watch the logo.
Triggering.
Please, dear God, look up the content warnings in this movie, please. Don't
Yeah.
just go into this blind. This will upset you because there is some consent issues all throughout this film. There
Mhm.
is a lot of other things.
I would say it starts the opening scene is kind of fucking disgusting.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
oof.
That's what I'm saying. Like I gave this movie a 5 out of 10, and the only reason it's not a 4 out of 10 is because Pacino is really good. That's
I
it.
give it a 6 out of 10 because I think that's how good Pacino is in this movie.
Damn.
It's really good job for him.
In the fantasy world, through the character, the audience.
He did, yes.
Okay.
I didn't want Brendan Fraser as the devil though. I wanted him as the devil's
Oh,
advocate.
he's not the devil in
Yeah, Al Pacino plays the devil in the devil's
yeah,
advocate.
and he in what's her face plays the devil in Bedazzled, which is actually a remake.
Yeah. I remember Bedazzled being pretty good.
I bet you 100% there's a transphobic joke in it.
God. Oh,
it's a it's a
what
90.
was it with movies at that time? Oh,
It's still they still put dudes in dresses and think that's a joke. That's the easiest, most transphobic shit. It's like low hanging fruit.
oh my God. I was just thinking of another Brendan Fraser movie that I really liked from that time period, Blast from the Past. And I'm thinking,
Oh no.
oh, please don't let there be a transphobic
Oh
joke in
no, there
that.
probably is.
No, no,
No, yeah,
no.
yeah. Easy
I
laughs
just,
from the audience, yeah. Elizabeth Hurley, thank
I
you for that.
think, I think I will be okay if the worst, uh, you know, trans joke in a comedy movie that I can think of and that has like made me never want to watch the movie again is Ace Ventura.
Oh
If
my
that's the
god.
top bar, then
The
I
only
might
reason
be
I
able to be
the only
okay.
reason I own the first Ace Ventura movie is because it was in a set with the animated series episodes that haven't ever been released anywhere else. I would have never even bought the first movie. The only funny jokes in the fucking first movie are talking about his butthole and fucking in the UPS package at the beginning. Everything else is just like low hanging fruit stuff. I think like every joke from the first movie that was good is done in When Nature Calls, but better.
I don't know.
The Like a Glove is
Uh,
better in number 2 than number 1. I
yeah,
mean, like,
my favorite scene from the first one is probably the one where he solves the case of the person who was killed in their apartment, and he shows the double pane glass. I don't know why, but that just made me
okay,
crack up all the time. But it's like, yeah, I'm okay with never seeing this movie again
yeah.
because of the other
Oh, okay. I guess
moments.
there's one other good scene is when he goes and almost gets attacked by the shark and walks out of the
Yes,
bathroom, and
yes.
then do not
It's
go in
just,
there because that's like, come on,
it's
fart
just
jokes are
like,
great, poop
it's
jokes,
so unfortunate
but
that
the rest of that
I
movie is just
will
dog
just
shit.
have to remember those scenes
Yep.
because I'm just
I'll watch
never gonna
I'll
watch it
watch the
again.
best of clips on
Oh,
YouTube and never watch the whole
jeez.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Ignore
And
all the
skip the fucking terrible parts. Yes.
exactly. Yeah,
Jesus.
the first one isn't great, and the second one is just better in every way. Like I said, every good joke from the first movie, except for the UPS joke, is basically in the second movie, but better. The shark attack is basically the rhino escape. It's the same fucking idea. Something happens, and then
Yeah.
he's walking around naked, or he's in the first movie he's all fucked up or whatever. But
Every
like,
time I see a slinky now, I think of that
yes,
scene.
but like for me, like whenever someone talks about childbirth, I just think about the rhino scene. Like that's like fucking comedy gold because the second movie's great, the first movie's garbage,
Even the Monopoly guy joke is in the
and
second
it
one, I
deals more with
believe.
the
Yeah.
animals, which is the big part of the character. The second one
Yes,
does,
exactly.
yeah. Cause it's better because he's the butt of the joke more often than not in the second one. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Ace Ventura 2 is great. The first one's dog shit and should be burnt. Well, not really, but it should just be put in the transphobic section of the library. So
Yes.
you know what you're getting into.
We never talk about that section.
There can people who are curious and maybe want to see it.
Will be the most
So,
dust covered section of them all.
but yeah, that's the kind of stuff. It's like I don't think any of that should be destroyed, but it should be clearly marked what's offensive about it.
But yeah, now I want to go back and watch the all the Brendan Fraser movies I remember being okay. Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no! What?
Oh, Encino Man. I can
Oh.
almost guarantee there's something terrible in that movie.
Oh, I guarantee you that caveman
Oh,
puts a dress on, doesn't he?
I
And
don't
that's
know. I don't
supposed to be
think
the
so,
joke.
but
It's supposed to be the joke. I'm like, that's not funny. There's nothing funny about it.
I
He's
know
just
for
wearing
one
a
thing
dress. Who cares?
there is definitely a lot of toxic masculinity in that movie. Remember
Well,
that.
not only that is the whole guy in a dress like it's also veiled trans misogyny against trans women who don't reach society's standard of passing.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Is like
Hmm.
it's a double layered transphobic trope that's gross, and it's low hanging fruit that comedies did all the time. Anyway, we got sidetracked
Oh,
again. What movie were we
yes.
talking about? Oh yeah, Devil's Advocate.
Yes, Devil's Advocate.
uh,
Which
there's some really
I got a
cool.
six
There's
out of
some
10. It's
really cool imagery
okay.
here. There's some really cool imagery here.
Mhm.
Early CGI, early morph effects, but like it's
Fairly
all
effective
very
in
effective use of all
most
these things.
cases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because
But
it's very limited. They don't like go too far with it. They just do a few things for a few seconds and
yep,
it just works. So,
yeah.
yeah.
They don't overextend themselves.
Yes. And
What's next?
I can
Oh,
understand why they did that too. Apparently, because Al Pacino wanted so much goddamn money.
almost the entire budget was Al Pacino.
Jesus.
Rick Baker did the makeup for it. Oh, really? That's cool.
Oh.
That's probably why it's so good. What are we doing next? What are we talking about next?
Um, from Devil's Advocate to uh, Rushmore.
Sure. I've never seen this. This is like the second Wes Anderson film. This is the first film of what's his face? What's his face?
What is his face?
What's his face? His face is
We know him.
Jason Schwartzman. That's his name. Jason Schwartzman. He's in all of the Wes Anderson films practically. But
Who
yeah,
was gonna? You said somebody else was gonna get the role other than him
yeah. I
at
don't
some point.
remember. I can look it up real
But
quick.
I'm glad they. I don't know. I'm kind of glad they didn't because Jason Schwartzman does so well in this role.
Anyway,
Um,
take us away while I
yeah,
look for the answer.
I had seen this movie when it first came out because everybody said it was so great. But at the time, I didn't get why everybody liked it so much. I found it kind of dull, kind of boring, because I didn't know a lot about film at the time,
Noah
and I was
Taylor. Who the
very
fuck's Noah Taylor?
unexperienced.
I don't know that
Um,
name offhand.
I
I
was
don't see it
very
here.
inexperienced with film at the time.
Oh, that guy.
So,
Okay,
you know,
that guy's a good actor.
I just didn't get it. And now watching it this time, giving it a second chance, I'm like, oh, actually, this movie's fucking incredible.
It's
This movie's really good.
not as elaborate or intricate as his other films, but you can
Yeah.
see all the. It's like when you watch Bottle
You
Rocket.
see the
Which
shades
I haven't seen
of
Bottle
his
Rocket
movies, you know.
all the way through, but I saw a bunch of it in film school because we were talking about movies, and my my roommate would just throw on movies and talk for a few scenes, and then throw the next movie on, and we would talk more. And that's how I got my film education. Uh, but like, yeah, like you can see the shadow of Wes Anderson in Bottle Rocket. And in Rushmore, you can see that shadow slowly coming out of the wall and forming in person. In the next film, that's when it all turns. That's when it solidifies. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Um, I feel like
World
I don't
Tenenbaums.
know
Can't remember what it's called. It took a minute.
who I don't know who the story is about in particular, but I you could just tell based on the way the story is told, like it has a very real feeling to it. Like this is something that's it's a overemphasized Hollywoodized version of events, but this is somebody's more or less real life story,
Hmm.
and they're kind of self-aggrandizing about their own childhood and about who they
How important
actually
they are, and
were.
how important they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally full of himself.
But at the same time, they do take themselves down a few pegs in the movie, but then only to raise themselves up to still be significant, important people and whatnot. But at the same time, it's like it, it's a movie that like it's a great character study of the main character, and
There's a bunch
there are
of
a lot of
shots.
really
Uh,
incredible lines in this movie.
oh yeah. There's a
And
lot of
yes,
incredible shots that are based on like famous photographs or whatever. Couldn't think of the word
yeah,
photograph for some reason.
early Wes Anderson. So you see a lot of the things that you would end up seeing in all of his later movies,
Hmm.
and this one as well.
Like I said,
Um,
by real time bombs is when everything gets intricate. You know, he gets
yeah.
like everyone's got like these intricately themed backgrounds and characters and costumes. That stuff that didn't happen
By
until
that
Real
time,
Tenenbaums.
he knows what his style is and what style he's
Probably
looking
feels
for.
way more comfortable behind the camera, more
Yeah.
confident. He's getting better budgets from the studios because movies have all been hits so far. So it's like, you
Bill
know,
Murray is amazing. And of course, it's Bill Murray. But like, especially I remember this one scene where he's talking to the teacher and they're having like this really, I wouldn't say somber conversation, but they're having a really like, personal conversation with one another. And this kind of conversation, any other movie They just show a second or two of them walking apart from each other, and that does it. Like, okay, the conversation's over, and they walk apart from each other, and they cut to another scene. And in Wes Anderson's movie, they focus entirely on Bill Murray walking away, and he's not walking away. He's running away wildly, like a wild man, for no particular reason. And as I saw that, I was like, that is definitely something that was not in the script that Bill Murray just did on the fucking fly. He's like, "Fuck it, I feel like running away from the scene right now." It's
I
so unfitting for like the discussion they just had in the fucking movie, so that it's jarring to see him just sk- scuttering away or whatever.
Yeah, I
Love it.
mean, Ambient Soup in the chat said that Wes Anderson has a very deliberate quality to his film. Like, yes, and you can see the roots of that here. There are, and you know everything is actually deliberate in this movie, but it's not as pronounced, stylized. It's more subtle with the style. I would say it's one of his more subtle films, even though it's definitely more stylized than Bottle Rocket, which we need to rewatch. I need to rewatch. We should probably watch for the show,
Yeah, for sure.
like a million other movies. But
I really loved Rushmore. I would give it like a 9 out of 10. Very
oh
good movie.
wow, I think I gave it 8 out of 10, which is totally fair.
It was either 8 or 9 out of 10. Okay.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Yep, 8 out of 10. I also hearted it because it was really good. So
Bill Murray has the best line in the movie. She's my Rushmore, Max.
which that's pretty good. I love that line. So why don't you take us through Mystery Train, since I feel like that's a thematically
Okay.
appropriate movie to attach to this.
Mystery Train. And what's interesting about this, I'll get into
Jim
later,
Jarmusch
but
film, by the
there's
way.
a little interesting aside I would like to mention about this movie later. But anyway, Mystery Train, Jim Jarmusch. It's a story. It's like an amalgamation of different stories that come together. It's almost an
Six, I
anthology
think six.
story,
It's six different characters or
and definitely,
pairs of
actually, it is
characters.
an anthology story. It's just it all takes place on one night.
Yep.
If you've watched Night on Earth, then you can kind of see
It's
where,
definitely a thematic sequel to Night on Earth,
yeah.
100%.
Uh, but it all takes place in Memphis, and it
At this
starts off
hotel.
we're seeing a Japanese couple who's visiting Memphis to see Graceland, to see the home of
They
Elvis.
wanted to see
Yeah,
mythical Elvis, which is not the real Elvis, obviously. But
yeah, and they even talk about how what they this isn't necessarily what they expected and whatnot. Or at least one of them is a little bit disappointed, and the boyfriend character has this, like, he is definitely trying to play off this cool guy character, the stylized James Dean kind of character that he definitely saw in movies
mm-hmm.
and thought that's what America was like. And so he goes to Americans, just is acting like these actors in these movies. And
Quoting them and stuff.
it looks kind of weird and off-putting in Memphis, but it's like, wow, that's that's what makes it gives this movie its charm, right? Is that you got a bunch of people who are out of place
Not
in
only
some way, shape, or form.
not only is that Japanese couple traveling to go to Memphis, but they're actually at a crossroads in their relationship, and so that's the whole
Yeah,
crux of their story is them sorting their shit out, basically, so to
yeah. And
speak.
then there's another story about a woman who had, um, I think it was her husband died, and she was having her husband, the body, uh, transferred via airplane,
Yeah,
but the flight didn't leave until the next day, so she needed a place to stay in Memphis. And they stay at the same hotel as this young couple, this Japanese couple stayed at. I don't think they ever really meet. And maybe at one point, if I
I
remember
think what
correctly.
actually happens is they just cross each other, and as it switches, if I remember correctly, there's a scene like it doesn't it follow a character, and then it switches and follows the other character, and then it's that character's story for a little bit. I'm pretty sure it did that at one point.
possibly.
But yeah, the characters, you see the other characters in the background or doing things in the hotel that they're all in. This it takes place in the hotel and around
Mhm.
the hotel, right? So you see the other characters in other segments, but not all the characters in every segment. Just
Yeah.
and sometimes
Then
none actually.
the last story is stars Steve Buscemi, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
with his friends, and his friends are uh, at a bar. One of them is a kind of unruly character, and Steve Buscemi is playing his best Donnie before Donnie happens,
yep.
and before that character even
I feel
existed.
like it's kind of a character, a return to his character from Coffee and Cigarettes. That's what it feels like.
Kind of. But the point is, he's a
Not the
kind of
same
a
character, but it
Weasley
feels.
character.
Yeah,
He's kind of, he's not, he's far from brave. Um,
I can relate.
and he's never really quite sure about he's not sure of himself. He's not sure of any situation going on around him. He's always like, concerned about what's going on. And he's that kind of character. So he's got these friends who are the antithesis of that, who are like in some cases troublemakers, in other cases just in the other case, just like going along with everything, right? And what ends up happening is that they rob a liquor store. I don't want to give too much away, but for that reason, because they robbed the liquor store, they're like trying to hide out. They hide out in the hotel, this same hotel, where who was it again? Who was the owner of the hotel?
Oh, that was the guy. Okay, so the owner of the hotel was what's his name? His name is
He's a musician.
yes, I'm trying to find his name. Screaming Jay Hawkins,
Yeah,
who,
okay.
if you don't know, it one apparently was an abuser, but two invented shock rock as we know it. He, I put a spell on you. That song, yeah, that's his.
Mhm.
Go put Jay Hawkins spell on you into fucking YouTube and watch that music video. That's the first time. It's the earliest form of shock rock.
You
And
also hear Tom Waits at some point
he's in
in
it
this
too.
movie. He's
Yeah.
like he's the radio guy, I believe. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're just seeing how these lives about these, you know, three different groups intersect with one another, and it all starts with the couple on the train coming into Memphis, the Japanese couple on the mystery train, and the train I think can be seen from the hotel, and you see it go past a few times. It's just one of those.
Doesn't it rattle the Japanese couple at some point? Doesn't it rattle a room or something? I could swore.
No, it's not that close. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I may be misremembering or crossing some movies over. It happens.
But yes, it's just a movie that's it's about these different characters and their experience on one night. It's quite entertaining. I think I like it.
I really
I
like it.
have the
It's.
criterion.
I would say it is pretty standard. Um, it's pretty standard. Like Jarmusch stuff. If you're into Jarmusch
Yeah.
stuff, you're gonna like this.
Hmm.
That's it. I mean,
He
otherwise,
loves
it's like,
doing,
yeah.
especially at that time. He loved doing character studies. So that's basically what this is.
Yep.
It's an opportunity to see all these different characters
It's
doing.
interesting because you see all these characters. The train represents the crossroads in these people's lives. I mean, like in all of their lives, they all have. I mean, at a crossroads of some sort, right? And aren't they all waiting for the train,
No, one of them was waiting for
for the
the
plane,
woman's waiting for the plane.
right?
Yeah.
But everyone else is like waiting for the train. I think she probably had to ride the train to get to the airport or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But point is, the movie's really good, but it's got this meditative quality.
Yeah.
Very, very Jim Jarmusch feeling. So if you like Night on Earth, you will like this movie. If you didn't like Night on Earth, this might be a struggle for you. This is less like
Ever,
Night on Earth because it's like less characters, more condensed, and it's just like a chunk of storylines. But it's about as it's the same feeling, mood wise, I would think.
If you haven't seen Night on Earth, go see Night on Earth
I
as well.
recommend that over Mystery Train, though I do like Mystery Train. I gave I think an 8 out of 10.
I think the easiest Jim Jarmusch movie to get into, in my opinion, is Down by Law because it's a fairly straightforward story.
I gave it 8 out of 10. There you go.
Um,
Down by Law is
Mystery
great.
Train, yeah. Mystery Train's, I think,
I would
another
say the
8 or 9
easiest movie
out
to
of
get
10
into
for
would be
me.
Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai.
Okay, yeah, fair. Yeah,
But
that
then,
one definitely.
but then
But that
yes,
doesn't give you really a sense of Jim Jarmusch's kinds of
no,
movies because it's very
no,
different from the kind of
yes,
stuff
it's
he
very good. We got to
does.
rewatch that also. I know I keep saying that, but I actually was thinking that while we were watching Mystery Train, I wanted to rewatch that. So, plus we've been watching a bunch of samurai movies, which will
True.
leads into. Do you remember anything about Ugetsu?
Yes, that was the one we just recently watched, right? The kind of anthology story,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's two stories at least.
Yes, it's two
And
stories. I think it's a small bridging piece, but yeah.
I think my favorite part about watching that movie was that I could tell just from the way that everything was getting set up and the the way that things were shot and everything. I'm like, this could be a ghost story, isn't it? This is going to be a ghost story,
I
isn't
would
it?
say it's hauntingly shot. It feels like a classic ghost
Yes.
story the way it's shot.
And it's cool to me because I love it when I'm watching a movie that's essential. It's a foreign film from another country from where they are at that time doing movies very differently, vastly differently
Their own
from the way
tropes
that
from like
movies,
their own theater type,
yeah, from
It's
the
like
ways that movies are done anywhere else, and yet just the art of film, just without. I think even if I weren't reading the subtitles, I still would have been able to pick up on the vibe of the movie because uh, that it was so well done. That's how you can tell true art. It's like you know where this is going, whether or not you understand what they're saying. You know. But there's also
rough.
like darkness to this movie. When did it come out? Ugetsu?
1954. 1953. Scent of the Bailiff is 1954. That's the other one. That's the other Kenji Mizoguchi film we'll be watching at some
It
point.
makes sense because I was going to say it really has this feel of a movie that would have been made after World War II, just slightly after or there, right around there, because
Just I'm
it has
obsessed
this
with post war Japan actually. So
it has this
yeah.
dark feeling to it because you've got these characters who at first are running away from these samurai warriors and they're running away from war and they're talking about war that's happening right at that moment and they're just trying to survive throughout this war and live their lives and you basically get to see them go and branch off in all these different directions and see what happens. And I will say though, the male characters are not treated kindly in this movie, which is to say that like they are not good characters.
Mm-mm.
They are very bad people.
Oh, I
And they
mean,
probably deserve everything that happens to them.
uh, I mean, it's a very dark movie, both from the character
Yes.
point and its cinematography. It's like, and dark is in a
Yeah.
theme, not physically dark. It's actually well lit.
That's another one you might want some trigger warnings for here because
Hundred
another
thousand percent. Please look up trigger warnings for this
uh
movie for any movie you want to watch if you're sensitive, like I am. I
yes.
can be. Some movies I look at the description and I immediately go and look up the trigger warnings. And, so those are some of the movies that I would like if something was on my trigger warning list, I'd be like, we're not watching that. I don't usually veto movies, but there's like certain cases things like, oh, we're not watching that. No, you can
Yeah.
watch that in your free time. And there's not many movies like that because I'm not really bothered by a lot of things. My things I'm bothered by like puke and needles, but like I can just look away. I don't know. To me, that one's not such a big deal.
Well look,
But
when it comes to Ugetsu, I guess
no needles
point
and
I
no
want to
puke.
the point I want to get across to people is that even if you're like, I hate watching foreign films because I hate reading subtitles,
Ugh.
which
Why are you watching
get
our
over
show?
it.
Why are you
Get
watching?
over it.
Why are you watching our show? I mean, some people like
But
have a problem for other reasons, which is fine.
but even if you can't get over it, if you have different reasons, it's like this is a movie that even if you struggle to keep up with the subtitles at some point or another, you're going to be able to pick up on what's happening in the movie just based on the way that it's shot and based on the
It's
story that's being told
beautiful.
and the way it's being told.
It's
So
beautiful.
you'll probably like this movie anyways, regardless. Even if you weren't able to read, even if you didn't have subtitles at all, you would probably still enjoy the visuals.
So,
So
so y'all, what happened this? Why you're seeing so many Criterion titles? We didn't talk about this at all last week either, or last episode either. Uh, Shutter doesn't work on for Justin. It freezes all the time, and
it works, but like
it
the
keeps out of
problem
sync
is
with us, with
I
me.
can't I can't full screen it. If I full screen it, then it has issues with loading for some reason.
That's
No idea why.
entirely your computer too, because I know the problems,
Probably.
right?
Yeah.
So he canceled his Shutter membership and got a Criterion Channel membership because I already have Shutter and I stream Shutter to him. He streams Criterion to me. Because if we lived in the same house, we'd only have one of these things also. The plan being that we would be living in the same house at some point.
And let me say in regards to the Criterion channel, the quality of streaming, god damn, it is on par with HBO Max, if not better. I would say even better,
It's
honestly.
better.
It is.
I think it's
Yeah.
better. I mean, you're paying almost as much as HBO Max for a
I'm
lot
talking
less
about
content
the
too.
image quality, the
Yeah,
you know,
the
I
compression.
feel like they might even have better quality video files that
Yeah,
they're streaming to.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
shocked. We're talking about Criterion here. They're
Yep.
literally different. They're like literally the best looking streaming service. Their interface leaves something to be desired, but visually, for your watching your movies, if you're into these kind of movies, they're the
Yeah.
way to go. Um. So my thing about this movie was the sexual assault and the like
Yeah.
that was a really I literally dissociated for about 10 minutes of the movie because I was just like triggered, like I
A
wasn't ready for
very
it.
it's a very
I was
dark moment in the
And
film.
I don't
And
mean trigger in like a joke way. I was literally actually just like I dissociated from my body and was somewhere else for about 5 minutes of the movie, 10 minutes of the movie. I can't remember.
it sadly
So
fits with the
it
you
does.
know the
I mean,
story
it's
that's
not
being
that
told.
it's not that it wasn't fitting for the movie. It was that I was unprepared for it to affect me in such a way.
Mhm.
If I had prepared
Yeah.
myself for it, I probably could have not dissociated, right? Because I would have been ready for it, but I
If
wasn't
you had
ready for it.
known, yeah.
Yeah, and it was intense, and it was well shot, and it's respectful. It's not exploitative like you might see in
Yeah.
like the movies I usually watch.
Well,
uh,
it was 1950s Japan. I mean,
yes,
most of the time they're pretty respectful.
it wasn't until like the late '60s, early '70s when you start seeing like
Yeah, and then they
the
start
pinky
saying,
films and porn and
yeah,
yeah, all sorts of other stuff. Um, Not to say that adult material didn't exist back then, because they did. It's in different forms. Um, yeah. So I gave this I think a 9 out of 10. I gotta double check. No,
I
yeah,
can't
9 out
remember
of
what I
10.
get. I think it was an Needle thing, but
It was
yeah,
for me. It was almost a 10 out of 10, but the rape.
yeah,
I had to, like I had to just start. It's the movie's fault, but I didn't enjoy it 1 star worth of rating.
yeah.
Um, So next is the Tale of Zatoichi, the very first Zatoichi film, and yes, we will be going through all the Zatoichi films because I have a collection, I have a set
Hell yeah,
here,
we
and
will.
so we're watching them.
Because let me tell you something
Oh,
about Zatoichi that I didn't. I mean, I had heard of Zatoichi, right? Never seen a Zatoichi film though,
I talked about
and
them
so
occasionally.
she chose Zatoichi, and we watched the first two of the movies, and
Zatoichi, A Tale of Zatoichi, and A Tale of Zatoichi Continues. I believe is the second one.
yeah. And as I'm watching this movie, the first one, I'm just in shock and awe by how fucking amazing it is. It's just like
I was shocked
so
he liked it
fucking
so
good.
much. I was shocked he liked
Oh
it so
my god.
much.
And I kept picking up on all these things. I'm like, hey, I remember that from some spaghetti westerns or European westerns. I remember that from like a Sergio Leone
and
movie.
and there's
And
some
that,
overlap in when they came out and when westerns were starting to become popular in Italy. So there's like a there's
yeah,
there's a little bit of that overlap where they're literally influencing each other back and forth.
yeah.
So it's
But
good
like,
stuff.
I just like,
So I
this
love
is
spaghetti
literally a
westerns.
western. It's a western, but
Yeah,
it's
with swords
it's
instead of guns. That's it.
well, to be fair, it's like, yeah, that's where a lot of the ideas that a lot of westerns had at the time that were coming out at the time. That's where they got the idea
And
from,
vice versa. Actually,
and
like I
vice.
said,
Well,
yeah,
yes,
there are samurai movies.
yeah,
Yojimbo Sanjiro especially were inspired by Sergio Leone the other way. So
yeah,
like I said, it was going back and forth. They were like because unlike America and other speaking English speaking countries, other countries don't have a problem with subtitled movies, so they tend to send each other's movies a lot more often. Like, so
yeah.
it's because all you have to do is just redub it or just release it with new subtitles and you're done.
Another thing that okay, Zatoichi's character, he's a blind guy, right?
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, that reminds me of
Daredevil.
Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm pretty damn sure that's where they got the idea
2 years
Daredevil.
prior to Daredevil's creation, this movie came out. So 100%.
Yeah,
What's likely was Zatoichi inspired something else that inspired Daredevil, but the lineage is there.
yeah. And then
And then, by the way, that means that Zatoichi, in a roundabout way, influenced Ninja Turtles, and Splinter is definitely influenced by the traditional samurai characters.
oh, for sure. There was a
So,
scene in the second movie that kind of reminded me of Master Splinter
yeah,
and what the Shredder
yeah.
kind of having a battle. But I was gonna say another thing I like about Zatoichi is that like he's not a traditionally attractive character.
Yeah. And
He's
he's not
just a
interested in
normal
sex.
looking guy, and that's why he looks so. Well, that's another thing, though. You're bringing about another thing here. There's something very non-gendered about Zatoichi.
Non-gendered.
Well, I mean, like in the first movie, he has this moment with that guy, and it's there's some very potential homoerotic undertones to this scene with this guy and his relationship with this guy, the
Interesting.
friendship with this guy.
I
And
did
I'm
not
just
catch
like,
these undertones, by the way. We had
oh,
he explained this.
I'm like,
He explained this during the second movie. We're talking about this.
I'm picking up on some
And
heavy
I've seen like
gay undertones
I've seen
here.
6 or 7
Okay.
movies, and I got the idea that Zatoichi was asexual. He was an ace.
That
Like
definitely
sex was supposed to
possible,
say
but
ace, which doesn't mean that he's not romantically
yeah,
interested in men. He can still be romantically interested in men. He just doesn't want. He's clearly not interested in sexual contact with women for sure. Every time it's brought up in the series, he's very chaste about it. Oh, get dressed. Don't
yeah.
worry about it. You don't owe me anything. Those kind of things. He's always like that. So, and that
Although I think it is implied that he potentially had some kind of relationship with women in the second, a woman in the second one, but
but I mean,
only ever so slightly implied. And there's
yeah.
far more that you see of him, getting handsy with men in these movies than there is with women. And I'm just like, this character is so fucking cool. And the sad thing is, you could never do a character like this nowadays. I'd be like, no, 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 there's too much gay in that character for
Oh,
us. Like,
whatever. Fuck him.
yeah, exactly. That's, but I'm
But yeah,
telling you, like, I love that aspect of this character because it's so different from what they typically would put in movies nowadays. Or if all you've seen is movies that came out in the last 30 or 40 years, you probably would not be familiar with a character like this. And he's such a cool character too. He's so fucking badass. Oh my god. Zatoichi fucking kicks
I
ass.
love it. I got him hooked with the first movie, and then like, are you drinking?
First movie, what,
Are
right
you?
now?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry. It
The
looked like it was
first
beer.
movie,
My
oh
apologies.
no. It's worse. It's
Oh, it is
Rushmore.
worse. Cancer water. No. Anyway.
But the first movie I gave a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I
I
was
don't
really,
give that to a
really
lot of
shocked
movies.
by that he gave
The
it 10 out of
first
10.
movie is really fucking good.
Yeah.
I think the second movie is almost as good, 9 out of 10. But these are so fucking good. I'm loving Zatoichi.
I
It's
gave
so
I
good.
gave the second movie 8 out of 10.
The cinematography is amazing.
But
The
yes.
story is amazing. The character is amazing. Everything about this movie, these movies, is
And the
amazing.
acting, did we mention the acting? I don't know if we mentioned the acting.
Of course, the acting is also very
Like,
good as well.
Shinjiro Katsu is like, I think I butchered his name. 1 second. Oh my god. I literally had a moment where I went, uh-oh. I know it's Katsu. Shintaro Katsu, excuse me. By the way, Katsu is a very butchered version of his last name too, but he's just so good in like
If
everything
you
I've seen
haven't
him
seen Zatoichi, go watch Zatoichi.
in. Any of
Telling
them, I would
you.
say, but
Oh,
mostly, I would most assuredly say watch the first movie for sure, 100%. Some of the movies,
I'm
the ones I've seen, there's one not great one, and I don't remember what the title was. But we're gonna end up finding it eventually. We'll be like, oh, this is the 6 out of 10 Zatoichi film, you know, like oh
I'm
oh
just
well.
saying there's a way to read these movies with a queer eye, and I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%. Like, in Zatoichi's definitely some flavor of queer, 100%, because like I said, he's likely ace with maybe homoromantic desires.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yes, and there's
It's
absolutely nothing
never
wrong with
flat
that.
out stated, but it's like
Because he couldn't,
there
obviously.
yeah, there
But
are obvious
the
implications though.
reason
That's what
why
gets me.
those implications work is because masseuses were considered blind people were considered some of the worst people in the Japanese society. The outcasts were also gay people and trans people were at the time. So
Ooh,
it's very likely he could have been those both all that. Yeah, very likely.
possibly. And I guess if that's the case, then it's very possible that those elements to his character were intentional. You
Yeah,
know,
it's very. I mean, I would not be shocked. It could be intentional. Because like Zatoichi's skill is not that he's a tough guy; it's that he's a finesse guy. He'll just dance
yeah,
around you with the sword or whatever, you know.
and that everybody takes him for granted. Nobody takes him
Yep.
seriously because he's just this blind
26
guy.
movies. Are you ready for this?
How could this guy, who's blind and one of the lowest of the low in our society, be able to stop us or do anything to stop us? And we're like 10 or 15 men against this one blind guy. There's no way. And
Right.
then
Dun dun dun.
15 seconds
Hi.
later, half of them are dead.
Hi,
Ah,
kitty.
oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't seen the Lone Wolf and Cub movies either, have you?
No.
Oh, buddy, are you in for a fucking time? Those are. I've seen those. I've seen the first movie every year for the last 4 years since that Blu-ray set came out. I keep
I
watching
will
with different
say,
people, and nobody else will watch the other 5 movies with me. Motherfuckers.
I never really understood like the big differences between like a samurai movie and a kung fu movie, but now I see there
Vastly
are
different.
completely huge differences
And
between
and
these
tropes,
movies.
and of course, obviously cultural
Yeah.
cornerstones. But the tropes are a big thing because tropes are from other forms of art that were brought in, so they have completely different tropes in their cinema than we do. So it's like, yeah. Hi, kitty. I'm petting a kitty. She's very cute. So yeah, last and not least,
Well,
Nightmare
we
Alley.
didn't
Oh, do you want to talk about what?
Boys in the Hood. We forgot Boys in the
Oh,
Hood.
I was gonna pass that up because I don't have.
Well, no, yeah, we probably should because I'm going to make us watch Menace to Society at some point in the next 2 weeks.
I don't. I mean, no, I just
So,
don't. I don't think I have anything to add to the topic. It's a great fucking movie. You should see it.
okay.
I mean, like
Well,
honestly,
I'm
I
still
don't.
going to make you watch Menace to Society,
Sure, I have never seen Menace to Society,
though.
so I'm good for it.
All right. But anyways, Nightmare Alley.
Yeah,
Last but not least, we saved the best for last. Well, maybe not the best, but one of the best for last. Yes,
man, this is
we
getting like
saved the
middling
one
reviews, and it hurts my
a
fucking
lot of
heart.
people are interested in hearing about, probably. Yeah, well, I gather. Wait, listen. Nightmare Alley is a movie that if you haven't seen movies like Double Indemnity, if you haven't seen movies of these classic noir movies that are being referenced in this movie, then you aren't going to pick up on that necessarily. And it's not going to like totally ruin your experience with the
No.
movie. But like at the same time, if you are able to pick up on those references and you see this loving homage, this love letter
Tribute. Yeah.
to tribute
Same
to
thing.
noir
Yeah.
that he's making here, then you can
He's
appreciate it
also
more, I think.
referencing Freaks and like a bunch of other
Yeah.
movies from that era, from like the
Hey,
40s,
Criterion, when are you going to
30s.
get Freaks? It's been out of
Uh,
print for fucking what, a decade
Whoever
now?
owns the original Elements, that's who's keeping up Freaks right now. But yeah, uh, what a interesting fucking movie. Bradley
Oh
Cooper
yes.
plays this guy called Stanton, and he's like he's like an he's a everyman. He's like a not everyman. He's like a he's like he works as like I can't remember what they call the lowest like the hard labor regular labor workers on the in the carnival. I can't remember. I used to remember these things, but he's like he gets hired on one of those and he insinuates himself into various acts in the carnival, develops his own act, and it's this whole story from one end to the end other of this twisted tale. This is really quite incredible. I really thought that fetus was going to be something else.
Thought there was going to be a little bit more to it,
No,
eh?
nothing wrong with what was there though. It's just it was like, but this is getting 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd as an average right now.
No, no, no. This is a 10 out of 10 movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fucking masterpiece. I think, honestly, in my opinion, I love Pan's Labyrinth. I love The Devil's
Oh,
Backbone.
you're
I
about
love
to
a
say
lot
this
of
shit.
Guillermo del Toro's movies. This maybe, I haven't quite, I need to rewatch them all before I can come to the conclusion definitively. It may be my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie.
Mine is Hellboy 2. That's one movie,
Fair,
and here's why.
fair.
Here's why. And I don't see a single paper being written about this shit. So here, I'm gonna put this out, and this is my version of writing a paper. Hellboy is about queers, beautiful queer people, because they're outcast from society. They're seen as monsters. Hellboy has dysphoria. Abe Sapien seems to potentially be, like there's like all these little. Johann Kraus is an asexual, but his asexuality is, uh, like, visualized as him being in the suit. Doesn't want no, like he's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like these kind of like little tropes, built into these monster characters, and how they continually save the world, and the world still hates them and fears them, just like the X-Men. But those
Yes.
movies all those characters are queer. And the thing I love about Hellboy is he has dysphoria. He says he shaves off the horns to make other people happy, but that's actually just him making an excuse for his own hatred of the thing he sees in the mirror. He
Yeah,
literally says in a piece
clearly.
of dialogue, "Hey, look, I can't do anything about this." And he motions at his face, but I can promise I'll never give up on you. Like, and that right there, that's him saying like this is a problem, and he sees it's a problem. It doesn't matter what it's he sees it. He internalizes it as a problem, so he shaves off the horns. He's raised by a father figure who is controlling and doting and uh, uh, and a bit abusive emotionally in the way he handles the situations, and a poor communicator also. And Hellboy has to, when his father dies, and he has to deal with adoptive parents who don't understand him, like, and just
Yeah.
want him to be be a quiet, complacent queer. Don't disrupt the society, and he's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna go disrupt the society," and get himself seen on the news and all that shit. It's like little things like that. It's like there's all these little things. It's just a a fable for being queer in our society at present.
I still need to see the new Hellboy movie.
It's okay.
I doubt it's going to be as good as the original one.
It
So.
is. It like look. Everything I described that I love Neil Marshall's films, right? Love them. Dog Soldiers, Centurion. Love
Don't tell me none
Doomsday.
of it is in the new movie. Don't tell me that.
He none of that subtext is in the new movie.
No,
It's a
no.
straightforward horror action film,
Uh,
and it's not bad. It's just
it's not Hellboy.
it's
At
not
least
great.
not your
Yeah,
Hellboy. You know, not our Hellboy. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad. Though,
like
you
I've
know,
never seen a movie of
that's the
Del
whole
Toro's
thing.
I haven't liked. I am
Not my
definitely a fangirl.
Hellboy, or not
No,
my
no, no,
this or
no. It's
that.
not a
And it's
bad
like
movie. It's
you
just
you can say that and still appreciate
and what breaks my
the
heart
thing that isn't your whatever.
is every couple of years is posts about why we won't have a Hellboy 3. And the latest one was Ron Perlman doesn't want to be. No one wants to see him as Hellboy. I'm like, are you kidding me? The end of the Hellboy 2 implies that he's gonna have a baby. That means you could have 70-year-old Ron Perlman playing Daddy Hellboy to a rambunctious little hellion. Maybe he has no horns, but he's still red. You know what I mean?
Also,
Like you could, like I'm just saying, you could do. Hellboy grows up, learns to be a father, or a parent, as it may be, right, and raise his child right,
but
and
also,
breaking the
who
cycle of abuse.
who the hell is saying no to Ron Perlman for
No,
anything?
Ron Perlman has said he didn't want to.
Oh, okay.
No one wants to see him
I
do.
misunderstood that.
No one wants to see him do that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me,
Ron,
Ron?
you're wrong.
Yeah, you're
You're
wrong,
wrong.
sir. Get in that
We
fucking
want to
makeup
see you
chair.
do anything that
Get
you
in the
want to do,
fucking makeup chair, old man. You're making the
which
third
is
movie.
I loved seeing him in Nightmare Alley. To
Oh,
bring
he's
it all
great.
back. He's in
Yeah,
Nightmare Alley.
he
Nightmare
is.
Alley, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of actors who are in a lot of other Guillermo del Toro
Oh,
movies.
he
It's
loves
like
his actors. He brings them all
he's
back. Yeah.
bringing them all back for this, and it's wonderful.
But the femme fatale in this is just
The
so
opening, you
evil.
knew this movie was going to be so good.
Old
This
man Hellboy.
with the opening scene, you knew Nightmare Alley was going to be good
Oh yeah.
because the opening scene has a reference to Days of Heaven. Like, oh my god,
Oh
oh
yes,
my
the burning
god,
house. The
yeah.
slow walk away from the burning. Yeah, that's it's such a beautiful shot.
And during
There
the
is
magic
also
hour at the same time,
there's
yeah.
also a couple. There's like a line that directly lifted from Sunset Boulevard, if I remember correctly. We're talking about it.
Ah, there were a lot of amazing lines in
And there's
this,
a
like
big,
just incredible
visually
writing.
speaking, there's like two huge sequences that are directly inspired by sequences in Double Indemnity, as we previously talked
Yes,
about. Oh, it's
yeah.
such a beautiful movie. All those movies are so beautiful, even if like
But
maybe
I
people don't
have I
grab
have
them.
something I have to say here.
Go ahead.
Now I know, fuck the Oscars one way or the other
He got
because
nominated for something.
they don't define. They did get nominated for 3 awards, but
What the
like
hell are you talking about?
they don't. The Oscars don't really define what how good a movie actually is. People are like,
Never.
a lot of people will look at the Oscars to define what excellence in the film looks like, and that's just not what the Oscars are good at doing, quite frankly. No, because the people who decide who wins the Oscars aren't really, always critics. Sometimes they're critics, but modern film critics
Most
are not
film
always
critics.
very good, you know.
I would say the
And
vast
most of
majority
them,
of them are
yeah,
underschooled for what they do.
yeah, exactly.
Undereducated. Not in schools. Undereducated for what they do. It has
So
nothing to do with
like,
schooling. Everything to do with teaching yourself shit.
I was, but I was still really hoping. I even said it during the movie because of how fucking amazing he was in this role. David Strathairn plays a character in this movie.
Oh,
It's
he's
just
so
it's
good.
has a very limited screen time, like maybe 10, 15 minutes of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
But still, Guillermo del Toro gives him literally the best lines in the movie. The lines that I would say define the entire shape of the film
Damn,
in some
bro.
ways. And he fucking nails it, knocks it out of the park. One of the best supporting acting uh, roles I've ever seen. And he did
Hey.
not get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? How do you not
So,
nominate
hold on.
literally the Best Supporting Actor role of the year? How
Hold
do you
on.
not nominate David Strathairn?
I gotta roll back. Let's see here. His acting in that makeup is so stiff. Are you talking about the new one or the old one? Because like the old one, I think he's like less emoting because he's a person whose entire childhood, every emotion he had was used against him by his father, and so he has problems with his emotions. What him and Liz break up before the first movie is there's a reason why that happens because he is emotionally stunted. So
Oh yeah,
and hi Artemis. Um yeah, so Nightmare Alley was incredible. Visually, I
yes.
thought it was beautiful. It was less I would say it was less visually intricate than his previous movies in a lot of ways, but also the things he chooses to have are like I think more purposeful. I don't
It's
know.
shot kind of like I
New Hellboy,
mean,
okay.
the tone of the film in terms like the color tone of the film. You know how for a long time in
Like
the 2000s
tobacco,
they had like
the
the
tobacco filter.
blue, green. Yeah, this is like a tobacco filter.
Yeah, well,
Makes it kind of feel almost like it's
2001,
being.
what with Traffic 2001, that was a big movie that with the tobacco
Yeah,
filter, and then everything that takes place in Mexico now has a tobacco filter applied to it.
yeah.
It's a
This
weird
actually feels more
stereotype.
like it's got like a feeling like it's being shown on parchment or something. Or you know, like
Interesting. It's
the
shot on
really
digital.
older movies.
I think it's the first movie Del Toro shot in
Yeah,
digital too, because I think he's favored film prior.
that's the color tone that I get from it is like parchment paper
Mm-hmm.
almost. So I don't know. It definitely works for it, but I can understand if you see that and you're like, but noirs were in black and white. It's like
He wants it in
it's a
black and
neo
white,
noir.
and he wants it to. There's an hour or there's 45 minutes cut out right now. He wants an even longer 3 hour cut, 3 hours 15 minutes. I think he said was his director's cut, and he wants it in
Yeah.
black and white. And if he does it, if it gets released like that, I will watch it. I will 100%
Please,
watch
yes.
it.
I said halfway through the movie I want to see this in black and white, and oh please, oh please, movie gods, please. It might happen if they. I feel like the studios are waiting to see how well it does,
Yeah,
and I feel like maybe maybe if it wins the Oscar for Best Picture, that's about the only hope I don't know.
I
I
hope.
can't believe it. Like that's
I
it
okay.
got
Here's the
Best
thing:
Picture and
if
then
it doesn't get
nominated.
released by the studio, please, dear God, when the Criterion family gets released, please give me the director's cut.
Oh yeah,
I'll
yeah,
wait 5, 10 years if I need to, but like I'd rather
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
You know.
Criterion has a relationship with Del Toro. Could happen.
Yeah, I
Could
know.
happen.
Yeah. Now
Well,
if only
that's not
Peter.
really what matters. It's more about the studio. But
So
yeah,
I can see why people have complaints about Nightmare Alley, but I don't agree with a lot of those complaints.
what are the complaints?
A lot of people just say it's like not as like What was the word here? Let me go. I don't want to misspeak. Uh, he's an excellent orator and I can listen to him talk all day, but the experience of sitting down and watching movies always leaves me a little cold. There's a calculation at play, a muted quality to the work that never fails to leave me at a distance. That's one person. And this is a very good friend of mine who I know is not like, it's just, he's pretty good with the movies
I
normally.
mean, I can kind of
I've always
understand
admired
where
Del
that
Toro's
person is
visual
coming from,
style,
but
and much like his other features, it's prevalent in this film. The aesthetics are pleasing. The bleak atmosphere worked for me. The storytelling for the 45 minutes or so, first 45 minutes or so, hooked me in, especially the carnival scenes and the character building with Bradley Cooper. However, I felt the story changed and the direction felt off and slightly disjointed. I will admit that there is like they changed location that from the first 45 minutes to another location basically for the next 45 minutes, and it does feel a little disjointed. I can imagine someone's feeling like that. Yeah.
it becomes more noir after because the first part of the movie is like it all takes place in the circus, right? And then the second part is like almost full on noir, right?
I think this is
So
actually based on a noir called Nightmare Alley from 1947.
yes, there's yeah. I don't
I
know if it's directly based,
I
but it
don't know.
is.
Well, I have to watch that now because
Yeah. What I will say about the first review you read is like I can understand where that person is coming from, and it just sounds like it just Del Toro's movies aren't necessarily movies that are for them, so to speak. Just doesn't work for them on their level, and that's fine.
it's like a
You know,
subtle but important difference from
because he does have a quality to his films that are very um, muted is the way that that person put it. You know, there are aspects to his stories that are fairly muted, right? They're not as in your face or whatever as some other
Yeah.
filmmakers will be. That's fine. And this it didn't sound like that person was saying there's anything wrong with that. It just
So
wasn't well done.
on
It's
the
fine.
docket,
It's fine.
by the way, is Warriors of Virtue. We'll be watching that next. Actually, you get the next pick, but my next pick is Warriors of Virtue.
What's that one?
It's a 1997 movie with the kangaroo people. I've never actually seen it. It's
Hold
on
on.
Tubi, so we're gonna watch that shit.
I'm very confused because didn't Tank Girl have kangaroo people?
Yes,
That's what I think
but
of when I hear
this is a
kangaroo
martial arts
people
movie
in a
with kangaroo
movie.
people, very in the vein of like the Power Rangers movie type feel
So
to
there
it.
were kangaroo people in between Tank Girl and Kangaroo Jack.
Yes. Dear
That's a movie I
God,
need to see too.
I
I've
wish
heard
the director's
so
cut of
many people.
Kangaroo Jack existed. The elements I guess are lost or whatever, but that movie is a dark comedy that they turned into a kid like a PG-13 comedy. They cut it down from a dark comedy to a PG-13 comedy, and I really want to see that. What a silly
I
movie!
def I never watched that movie. I still need to see it. Kangaroo Jack. It looked so stupid. It
It's
seemed
not good.
so damn silly.
It's not good.
Uh, but but I've heard so many things about it now that I'm like, well, I
I'm
kind of gotta watch it
I'm
now,
at that
don't I?
point in my life where unless you tell me it's like great and I'm like not thinking straight. Like I'll have to. I'm gonna wait until that director's cut finds its way into existence.
Not until there's a director's cut.
I mean, I have Kangaroo Jack on DVD. It comes in an orange Snapper Keeper,
You
so I kept it because it's one of the only times.
it's funny.
Scooby Doo, I have an orange on the green Snapper Keeper. It's one of the few ones with a different colored Snapper Keeper.
I've
Anyway,
also heard people tell me that Hop was a good movie, and I'm just like, how could these movies be good?
okay, Hop looked kind of funny, but you know it was good. Paddington. Paddington was amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
Paddington was incredible.
I gave Paddington a chance, and Paddington
Paddington 2
is
was better.
amazing.
Paddington 2 is better, and not only is Paddington 2 better, Paddington 2 is one of the best prison escape films ever, and I say that having seen Brute Force
Yes, I need to see it
and
though.
Shawshank
So
Redemption, both of which are prison
yeah,
escape movies, and Paddington is the best one ever, 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 ever.
I still need to see The Great Escape. Uh,
Wow, I saw
it's
that
been a long time since
last
I
year.
saw Escape from Alcatraz too.
I've never seen Escape from Alcatraz, but I have seen The Great Escape last year, in fact, for the first time.
Birdman of Alcatraz,
But we
I've
can
always
watch it
felt
again.
like was better, and that one
Yeah, we can watch A Great
is a
Escape again.
different kind of movie.
It comes around on TCM quite often. I'll have to record it for us.
Oh, cool!
I have a very
It's also just
small.
available on
Oh,
streaming
oh,
elsewhere.
okay, that's good. I have a very small DVR now. It used to be 200 hours. Now it's 50, which is a bummer. I lost so
Goddamn
many
shit.
movies. I lost so many movies.
Hmm.
Oh well. That's
It
what I
won't
get for
be.
not watching movies all the time. I have such a problem watching movies by myself. So yeah, do we have any other movie stuff to talk about?
Um, not that we really have to, but like, I will say I watched Encanto because you said you're going to watch Encanto with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and for my take on it, just my quick little take, not very impressed. It was okay, but there were plot elements that I felt like were just annoying to me as personally as a viewer,
Fair.
and didn't like. I felt like it was talking about. It's a movie that's very much talking about like generational stuff, and in a way, I felt like they're one of the characters are talking about my generation, and they have nothing positive to say about my generation, and I'm like, gee, thanks.
Have you
Once again, shit on.
have you
Wonderful.
have you seen Tokyo Godfathers?
No.
You need to see Tokyo Godfathers. It'll be your new favorite Christmas movie. Also, there's a
Okay.
trans character that's the main character, and they're
Huh?
treated humanely in a country where that's
No
not
fucking
in a
way.
country where they are not at all treated humanely. So
Isn't that weird? Like
Yep.
Zatoichi, like a country where these kind of characters are not treated well, and yet here they
I
are, like
I
the
think
fucking main character, the hero.
I think with like Zatoichi, that was like these the movies were produced for like the grindhouse type stuff, like the number like
Yeah,
there's 25 movies put out. You know what I mean? Like over like a 10-year period,
yeah.
like they just pumped them out. They probably didn't bother watching them all. They didn't care. It's like they just put it out there. Kids are
I'm
gonna
sure there were at
watch.
least a few movies that they didn't even bother watching before they pumped them out.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. There's no way a studio executive watched Hasu and then let that get released. That movie's so it's bonkers bananas.
It really is.
I just
There were
feel
actually elements of Ugetsu, is that what it's called again?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna
That
say
reminded me of Hasu.
it very much. I was
Yeah.
gonna say that's what it did. There during Hasu during when we were talking about Ugetsu. I meant to say that like yeah, there's a lot of same vibe here. Not as wild and
It was
unpredictable,
very
but
clear to me that like
the
there
spooky
were
aspect.
elements of Hasu that were inspired by or yeah, were
Or they're
inspired
both
by Getsu.
or they're all based on a similar theatrical trope that they all originate from. That's the thing, or cultural trope that we understand that they could be referencing. It may not be
Yeah.
necessarily a reference to a movie. It might be a reference to something in the culture. Regardless, Ugetsu was awesome. Zatoichi Tale of Zatoichi was great. Tale of Zatoichi continues was really good. Mystery Train was really good. Everything else was crap. No, I'm kidding.
Nightmare Alley was really good,
Nightmare Alley was incredible.
and everything else was middling.
Now, I will
Was mid
say, I am a Guillermo del Toro
or crap.
fangirl. I did sit in front of him for a movie screening. I don't know if I've ever put this on this podcast, but I went on my last day in California before I moved to Austin. My friend who took photos of me for the lame claim to fame music video with Weird Al, who then took me to the Samuel Goldwyn Theater at the Motion Picture Sciences building or whatever, and we watched The Man Who Laughs, newly restored, that was paid for by Guillermo del Toro, and I stood up after the credits, we're clapping. Guillermo del Toro standing right behind me. What the fuck? He's been behind me this whole movie. Del Toro was sitting right here behind me the whole movie, and I was just like, and his handler immediately shuffled him away. I was like, holy fuck, what the hell? I was like, what the hell? That was a wild fucking day. It's that day lives forever in my brain because I got to do two incredibly cool things. So
That's awesome.
yeah. Like I said that on
You
other
sat
streams.
mere feet from Guillermo del Toro.
Mere
I'm
feet.
jealous.
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Yes, I know.
I will forever be jealous.
I wish I just taken a moment just to look back so I just want to see his reaction to this one scene. I want to know if it still thrilled him. He seemed
Probably.
he seemed like the kind of person who he could see that movie 100 times and that scene.
I mean,
I don't want
there's
to
a
spoil the
reason he
scene.
was sitting there
That
in that
scene.
theater, you know? Like,
Yeah,
come
I
on.
mean he paid for the restoration. That's why he was there. But
Well, but that doesn't mean like you could pay for a restoration of the movie and still be watching from like the rafters in your own special fucking section
that's
or
true.
something.
Yeah,
That you have
we got
closed
like
off from everybody else.
primo prime seats. You have to meet Cheech and Chong at a local dispensary for their stuff. It's amazing.
Nice.
I grew up with Cheech and Chong. Like the
Tommy
records.
Chong is
Like
still awesome.
class.
Cheech knows a lot
Class.
of comedy still, I think, right?
Rotor
I think he
Rooter,
still does.
that's the name. Flush your troubles down the drain. Rotor Rooter, Rotor Rooter, Rotor Rooter. The shit that lives in my brain from listening to these Cheech and Chong. They were recordings of the vinyl records my parents had. They made recordings of them on tape so I could listen to them because I only had a tape player. So Cheech and Chong, yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah. I don't think you have anything else to say. We've gone for almost 2 hours again.
Yeah.
So we'll
Got
see
it.
you in 2 weeks for another episode of Couch Fans Movie Chat.
We always find something to talk about.
Let me look at my calendar. I will see you all probably not tomorrow. I might stream it late around 9 p.m. I might not. I will see you on Friday at the very latest at probably 1 p.m. Pacific at the latest. So between noon and 1. Hard to pin down because it just depends on when I wake up and get functional.
And I will see you in 2 weeks.
And yes, and he'll
everybody.
see you in 2 weeks for that. So take it easy, everybody. I gotta find the thingy. Bye, everyone.